Welcome to all of you joining from around the world. I am Chris Kirchhoff.
And I am Barbara Bush. We are your co-hosts for the Futures Forum on Preparedness.
For those of you just joining today, yesterday we unveiled groundbreaking research on the COVID-19 response in 23 nations. This research, the product of 78 scholars from 47 institutions, begins to unravel the puzzle of why some nations have almost completely contained COVID-19 while others have struggled. We debuted a repository of over 1,200 pandemic preparedness reports from the last 25 years called Health Security Net. Barbara also interviewed Dr. Anthony Fauci, and we confronted the structural racism that's led COVID to disproportionately affect minorities and vulnerable populations.
We had a very active Slack workspace yesterday, which will continue today. Upon registering, you received an email with a link to join our workspace. If you have any trouble, please email events@schmidtfutures.com. This is a space for community building and open dialogue. Today, we'll discuss trust and vaccine hesitancy, the role of science advising as COVID evolves, what steps the world and the US must take to move forward, and scientific moonshots that could end pandemics forever. To kick off today's program, we will start with opening remarks by our co-founder of Schmidt Futures, Eric Schmidt.
So Chris and Barbara, thank you very, very much. And thanks everybody for being here on the second day of our forum on preparedness. I want to especially thank the head of the WHO, the Director General, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Vivek Murthy for joining us, and Dr. Nelson and her Social Science Research Council for doing this with us. I have been concerned for a long time, based on the pandemic, that we have been seeing the end of American exceptionalism. And by that, I mean that something as straightforward as a massive attack on our country split us apart rather than brought us together. And that's a failure of our leadership. It's a failure of our thinking. It's a failure of our American ideal. And so when we think about how to solve this, and the reason we're all together is to solve this and to get back to American exceptionalism, which is much more fun, is to understand the role of information, the role of empowerment, and the role of science in getting us to the right outcome. The suffering that we're seeing here is horrific, and some of it could have been avoided had we been better prepared. And again, I think everyone is in agreement now, and the question is, how do we avoid this in the future? So it's little things like listening to doctors, proper health guidance, not having confusing messages and that sort of thing. I also think that there are a lot of interesting tools that we could build. We could do, many, many different variants. Profiling coronavirus and predicting what's going to happen using various forms of AI, much faster and greater data platforms for countries, increasing our pipeline for talent, which is also part of the immigration debate, using optimization techniques to pre-identify and substantially increase the production capacity so that PPP and the other things are rollable, outable quickly. Telehealth, something which I've been working on as the chair of the New York Reimagine Commissioning, which has now been endorsed by the governor. Equity for essential workers, improving the partnership with public and private sectors. All of these are incredibly important as part of preparedness for our society, and the benefits flow in many, many ways. They create new businesses, they create new science. Look at the incredible achievements in biology as a result of this horrific crisis, and American ingenuity can take us to the future. So let me just say that and make it as clear as possible. We have a choice. We can let this happen to us, or we can get our act together, fund science, listen to medicine, take the advances that it does, do it at global scale, and do it the way Americans really can win doing it. So whether this is investment in promising innovations, I'm a visiting professor at MIT. There's this amazing bioengineer named Jim Collins who did a whole new drug called Halicine using a combination of AI and biology and chemistry in really interesting ways. I'm a member of the board of the Broad, and the Broad has a scientist named Aviv Regev who has basically built an atlas for all the cells of the human body. All of these programs are incredibly important to not only move our knowledge forward, but also, frankly, to be better prepared. So I can go on and on and on. But the purpose of this is for us to come together to figure out what these things are. There is a correct path here. And that path is basically to spend our time guided by science, guided by health, to make our country, the globe, and our citizens healthier and obviously live longer. Thank you so much, Barbara and Chris, for letting me start off. And thank all of you guys for participating for the whole day. It's going to be amazing.